Good.
Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, August 7th, 2023 Board of Education special meeting. It is 5:31. I'm calling the meeting to order. Mrs. Hageman, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Sebastian.
Here.
Mr. Elam.
Here.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Here.
Mrs. Donahue.
Here.
Mr. King is not present.
Okay, we need to review and approve the agenda before I call for a motion. Are there any, we can't really make major changes, but were there any changes to the agenda?
We do have a late scratch
Okay,
on item 2C. Lorna Verderer has communicated to us that she is unable to take the position, so
okay.
got that crossed out.
And I don't think this was on the agenda, but it will be, we do need to have a public participation, and we will put that right before executive session, so if people want to leave, they can. Okay, so may I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Thank you. As revised, thank you.
As revised.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Mansfield.
I'll second.
Mrs. Donahue seconded. Any other discussion? Mrs. Hageman, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Elam.
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue.
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian.
Yes. Mr. Crispin.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, Board of Education. Thank you for having this special meeting so we could take care of some employment issues. It seems like employment season has gone extra long. We've been doing this since February. So we can talk about that at another time. But let's get right into meat of section 2. Tonight I am making a recommendation to hire Tanya Hogan, who happens to be here with us this evening with her husband Keith, to be our K2 principal. Item B, we have some transfers of some cafeteria workers, formerly cafeteria workers that are going to be full-time drivers for us. So starting to solidify our driving staff at the expense of our food service folks. And then also hiring Alan Brandon as a full-time driver. Item C, then we have classified personnel. So Sarah Taylor will be joining Julie Gravitt as secretary in the elementary office. That's for the resignation, which is coming later in this section from Amanda Stegner. Then we have April Bearden and Janie Boycourt joining us in food service. Supplemental contracts, if you remember, we had these up at the last regular meeting and had pushed those to the August 21 meeting. We just moved them. It's getting taken care of since we are in season. Resignations from Lucas Irons, Catherine Mader, and Mrs. Stegner, as previously mentioned. One summer worker to add in Gleb Ribas.
Two.
Whoops, just one. And then we have 2 contracts to rescind. Ian Biegsma is decided to go back to school and is working on his Bachelor of Science degree. So wish him well with his studies. And then Sarah Spitzer is going in a different direction. So we are now looking for a high school EL person. And those are the personnel recommendations for this special meeting.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the recommendations for classified and certified personnel, please?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Elam. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Donahue. Discussion.
If I may, on the internal transfers, was Mr. Was he working in the cafeteria exclusively as well, or not?
He was doing a little bit of both.
Little bit of both.
Now he's all driver
Okay, okay.
for now. Sure, yeah.
Very good. And since some of them have 8 hours, do they have special routes that they'll be driving?
I don't have the route list yet from Mr. Fugate, so can't answer that completely.
Okay.
But they're gonna be busy. And our buses are gonna be full.
Are we still short some bus drivers? So, a good opportunity to ask.
My list shows that there are still 2 spots. And Mr. Fugate and I are getting together tomorrow and go through that list just to make sure. That's what.
Thank you.
It's back out. Accepted a contract and then backed out on that. Now you're trying to hire somebody at the last minute.
Crazy market. It's a crazy market. So
How many food service workers, if you don't know?
I do
Okay.
4.
Oh, we need.
Yeah, because it's like the number we started with back in when we finally figured out with Bonnie what our staffing needs were with opening the new kitchen. It was 2 new positions there, 2 new here. And because of these moves, we're still at that 2, 6 hours and 6 hours. So, and if there's anybody out there that's interested in a 3-hour or a 6-hour spot, we have them.
And I was going to ask on Mr. Beeksma. He was the intern previous to this contract that we approved, I think, at the last meeting in July.
Yes.
As an intern, does he have any type of contract that he would need to resign from?
Yeah, so we hadn't issued a contract yet, and so we were kind of in between. And he left. It was kind of abrupt. So just to kind of clean up the board's action from the last meeting, we're doing a reset.
So
Rather than have him sign a contract and then do a letter of resignation.
He and I had not signed in the administration, so there was no signed contract.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
My only comment is just to welcome Mrs. Hogan.
Thank you so much.
You seem extremely well qualified and I'm very pleased to join our elementary staff. It's going to be exciting.
Yes.
And I can see how very excited having here is already dressed to be a part of it. It's fantastic. Thank you so much for your
Yes.
eagerness and I'm really pleased to have you. Thank you so much.
And I'm sure we'll see you at upcoming sports events, maybe a football game or something. So-
First home game is September 2nd.
First.
September 1st, that's right. How can I forget? It's your birthday, for
It's
goodness
okay.
sake. Have mercy. How can I forget?
And I just want to say what a great resume. Mrs. Hogan is
Yes.
one of the state school board representatives, Charlotte McGuire. And I don't know if you ever heard, we were talking earlier, but Charlotte McGuire was in our district November of 2017. So I got to meet her prior to that, and she came shortly after the new addition was opened. So a wonderful reference. Congratulations on it. All right, any other comments? All right, Mrs. Hogan, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian.
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Yes, with pleasure.
Okay, next up is public participation. Mrs. Van Huren.
Yeah, I just want to say, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I had the great opportunity to volunteer, thanks to Mr. Crispin facilitating it last year. If you're with the English language learners in the 1st and 3rd grade, so. And I want to say, A, it's so much fun for me, but B, there are some phenomenal teachers in Bethel Elementary, which I already knew because my kids went here. But still, they really, really do a fantastic job. And I don't think we, as the general public, and even me who had kids go through schools forever a day ago, realize how much they are juggling. Not only are they juggling English proficiencies, but they're also juggling the kid who can spell dragon and the kid who can't even spell the word, see the letter D. I mean, and those are already English speakers, native English speakers on top of the, so kudos to your elementary teachers. I worked with Mrs. Bird, Mrs. Hamlin, Mrs. Parrish, and Mrs. Hughes. And then Mrs. Bailey facilitated it, but she's since left. But anyway, you guys should be very proud of that team. You also representing a teacher, but I didn't have Mrs. Hughes, but they really awesome. I mean, I'm amazed. I only volunteered 2 hours once a week, and that was plenty. I was happy to go home after my 2 hours. I don't know how to do it for 6. But seriously, I know when you're getting a lot of crap about, maybe not crap, you're getting a lot of negative comments about this and that, those teachers go above and beyond. So I can put my testimonial on your website. Thank you.
And please feel free if you're available. I assume you know, but we're having the elementary building dedication on Saturday, August 19th at 10:30 a.m. at 7120.
I will be there. And I do want to add one more thing real quick. Bethel Township, even though we are not Bethel local schools, we're going to try and do a school supply drive. We put it on our social media, and I saw that the Bethel Beast did it as well. I talked to some of the teachers. They were okay with all this. I talked to Mr. Crispin. So talk to the PTO, so we're not trying to overdo it. But so if anybody's watching this video, you can donate at the fire station. There'll be a box out front until September 1st.
Awesome. And where's the list posted again?
It's just on social media. We'll put it on our webpage
You'll
too.
put it on the Bethel. Okay.
Bethel Township.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you, Mrs. Van Heeren. At this time, let's see. I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. Thank you, Mrs. Mansfield. May I have a second? Any discussion?
And that's item 5, right?
Yes, it's item 5. An action will be taken after it's listed on the agenda. Will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Sebastian?
Yes.
Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue?
Yes.
I'm into executive session. It's 5:43.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
Nice meeting you.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Oh, umbrella.
Thank you so much.